America owes more money than any country in history. But who is all that money owed to? Some experts call it a serious long-term challenge. Others say it's simply how modern governments finance their economies.
The answer is probably not what you think. Let's break it down step by step.
The national debt is the total amount of money the U.S. government has borrowed over many years and has not yet repaid. When the government spends more money than it collects in taxes during a year, it runs what's called a budget deficit. Think of it this way. A budget deficit is 1 year's shortfall. The national debt is the total of those deficits accumulated over time. So what happens when the government doesn't have enough money to cover all of its spending? It has to borrow the difference. To borrow money, the U.S. government sells Treasury securities, including Treasury bonds, to investors who agree to lend money in exchange for future repayment with interest. Investors buy these securities because they're generally considered among the safest investments in the world and provide scheduled interest payments. So who actually lends money to the U.S. government? The answer isn't just foreign countries. A large portion of U.S. government debt is owned by Americans themselves, through pension funds, investment funds, financial institutions, and individual investors. Foreign investors also own U.S. Treasury securities. Countries like Japan and China hold a share, but they own only part of America's total debt. When a Treasury bond matures, the U.S. government repays the money it borrowed. Many Treasury securities also pay interest along the way. Interest payments on the national debt are funded through the federal government's finances, which include tax revenue and additional borrowing when necessary. Instead of paying off the entire national debt at once, governments often refinance maturing debt by issuing new Treasury securities. This is a common practice used by many countries. If printing money were that easy, why doesn't the government simply print enough to erase the national debt? Creating too much money without matching economic growth can increase inflation and reduce the purchasing power of every dollar. That's why governments try to balance borrowing, taxation, and economic growth, instead of relying only on printing money. As the national debt grows, the government may spend more money on interest payments over time.
Investor confidence plays a major role. As long as investors trust the U.S. government, borrowing can continue.
A U.S. default is considered unlikely by many economists, but debates over government debt continue every year. The national debt has grown for decades, yet the U.S. economy has also expanded over that same period. The bigger question isn't whether the debt exists, it's whether the economy grows fast enough to manage it.
So the real challenge isn't paying every dollar tomorrow. It's keeping the debt sustainable for future generations.
Could the United States ever go bankrupt? It's a question that often sparks debates.
Most economists consider a U.S. default unlikely because the government has powerful financial tools and access to global credit markets.
The real challenge is managing debt responsibly, while keeping the economy strong for future generations. Will America ever completely pay off its national debt? Most economists believe that's unlikely. Instead, governments usually refinance old debt while working to keep borrowing at sustainable levels. A strong economy makes it easier to manage debt over time, even if the total debt remains high. The national debt doesn't directly send you a bill, but it can influence the economy you live in. Higher borrowing costs can affect government budgets, investment decisions, and, over time, the broader economy.
That's why understanding the national debt matters. It helps explain many of the economic decisions shaping America's future.
The national debt is more than a number. It's part of a much larger global financial system.
The real goal isn't zero debt. It's managing borrowing responsibly while supporting long-term economic growth. If this documentary helped you understand America's national debt, subscribe to the Revenue Codex.